Wow. Bar. No pressure. Thank you. First of all, thank you, and thank you for being for the an amazing invitation. John, what can I say? I've never met you, but I feel that we are simpatico. And it was quite touching that that you're sharing that lived experience and the stories. I think yourself and my wife may have actually been on the same street, on Sunnyside Street there across from the asylum. Her parents as well warned her not to talk to the people that were out. So it was quite interesting. But thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your passion and your vision. It's because of you, other pioneers that are in the room, that have been dedicated to this cause for quite a few years, that I get the chance to stand up here. So I just want to acknowledge that before we go on. Thank you. I'm going to introduce my team before, enough about me. So at this point, I'd like to actually ask Lisa and Kim to come up and say a word about, I'm going to introduce the strategy, but I want you to know over the next 2 days, well, 1 day for Kim, 2 days for Lisa, this is part of the amazing team. Kim, would you like to, come on. Kim, come on.
Hello everyone. I have been so honoured to be a mental health and suicide prevention peer worker, and now I'm honoured to be the peer liaison on this project and work toward supporting my fellow peer workers. And I definitely won't be silenced. I'm always at this time bringing the team back to this is a strategy for the peer workers. So that's where I'm coming from with that. So thank you.
Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and my role will be to liaise with the LHD, the people who are managing the LHDs, who are trying to create good pathways for peer workers, and getting the gathering the knowledge that from all of you to feed back to the managers. I've been an undercover peer worker for 15 years. And I've got my own lived experience that I haven't been allowed to talk about in any other professional forum. So I feel like I've just grown big wings. This is amazing. And honestly, you just all feel like my brothers and sisters. I feel very privileged to be in this space. And so we're going to do our best to gather all of the best practice that's going around to support suicide prevention peer workers, and then to find out what other great ideas you've got, and to feed that back to Ministry of Health and get the funding for it is our plan.
Really important that you get a chance to talk to them while they're here. But again, we've created a little chat on the little app, so we've got a really positive chat going there in that space. Now, I do want to acknowledge that. Look, we're not going to actually talk about suicide today. As much as it is a very, very important topic. It impacts so many people, so many families, so many parts of communities around Australia. And I was imagining, even when we were acknowledging country, is the fact that our Indigenous population, absolutely high representation in that space. So just want to acknowledge that before we go on. So what is this suicide prevention peer workforce strategy? Because if you're like me, and who am I? So Omar gave me a brief introduction. So I'm currently on secondment as the Southeast Sydney Local Health District Peer Manager. So I have the great distinction of being in that space. Prior to that, I've been in the NGO sector as a peer worker, senior practice leader / peer worker, acting site manager / peer worker, because that was always something in my negotiations that I always held on to my peerness. Really important. If I stepped into a leadership role, that I still always kept that peer part of who I am. So the suicide prevention framework here, which was, thank goodness, informed and driven by lived experience. So this is our guiding document. So this is the Towards Zero Suicide initiative, which has come out of over years and years of, we've seen slight increases over the years, too high to accept. So the ministry has funded this initiative Out of this, we had the Towards Zero Suicide initiatives, which have set out, and I think we were talking, John had mentioned the safe haven spaces. We know for a fact, people presenting as suicidal ideation, that the emergency room is absolutely the last place. If you're going there for a cold or flu or sprained anything, the emergency room is a challenging space. We know for a fact, that absolutely, if you're presenting with any kind of mental distress, let alone to take your life, that could become quite distressing. So over the past few years, there's been a lot of money that has really been dedicated to that suicide prevention space. So we have 143 million from in that 22 to 23 space there, with the priority being the focus to reduce 20% by 2023. The other thing is that just last week, I think we had another 143 million pushed back into the suicide sector. So there's a lot of money really being put into this space. And another thing that I heard John say was the fact that we hope that we can really continue to grow the peer influence, the peer-led initiatives. And I fully agree, our strategy is put into place because the problem is that's what we're doing. We're growing the peer workforce too rapidly. There's no supervision, there's no how do we onboard people? Do you know what you're doing? Do you know what you're in for? Have you had training? Is there supervision? This will come up in conversations. I've heard it all morning. I'm seeing so much snickering out of the corner of my eyes. This is across peerdom in the lived experience space. We have proven our worth and our value. So a lot of our new initiatives, and I can speak from experience as a peer manager, that every new initiative values you. They want you. However, they come to me afterwards and go, what do we do with them? They're an amazing person, but do we bring them to the debriefing? We don't want to trigger them. That's actually resonating because we know that this is, and they're coming from a good place. They do sometimes fragilize us out of care. Thank you, but that's only continuing the stigma. So what we hope to do with our strategy is to work on coming out to all of the LHDs I'll talk about, is building a strategy with you. So our suicide prevention peer workforce. This is a very, we talk about peer work being brand new, and I was so glad to hear, such amazing, thank you. Standing up and saying, I'm a suicide prevention peer worker, and I'm going to talk, so thank you. That just made my day to start off. I'm just like tickling. I'm a suicide prevention peer worker. Now we've had you out in the field because you're amazing, and whether you're in whether you're in one of our Towards Zero Suicide initiatives, our suicide prevention outreach teams, or our safe haven models. However, what we've discovered is we don't have a framework. What does that look like to support you? And it's going to vary from LHD to LHD, specialty health network, across the board. So what we want to do is come and work with, the LHDs, the specialty health networks, and the peer workers to go, what do you need? Now, I hate to say it, the only way we can do that is by a survey. Ugh. Oh, I'm sorry. Now, I won't do it to you for a few months, but at some point, we will be contacting you. We have, Lisa and Kim, who will be working on both sides of this equation to meet with you, to meet with the LHDs, to meet with the managers, to meet with the health districts. This is what we've got to cover. So we will be, and I'm very serious about making sure that we capture the communities, the peer workers that are often siloed. It happens quite easily in those spaces. Even for us here in Southeast Sydney, is that we have Lord Howe Island as part of my, so you go, need to check on Lord Howe. How are they doing? Because we forget, they're isolated. Peer workers often feel like a little island out there. And you go, has anyone checked on Lord Howe lately? How are they doing? So we have a large area. We're going to get out to all of the health districts, meet with the peers, meet with the managers, and go, what is a challenge? Or, it's not negative focus, what's working well? If you or your team is doing something so amazing, we want to know about it because we want to build that as a resource that we can then share with other LHDs. The safe havens that maybe are just starting to open because COVID has slowed them down, or a spot team that's had to pause because of staffing, because half the clinical staff went off to a vaccination clinic, or they're contact tracers now. So we're going to be covering that big area. But the whole point of it is every aspect of it will be co-designed. Otherwise, the framework, the strategy will not work. We need to have your voice. We're going to be establishing a steering committee to hold even me as a peer accountable. We need real voices that are passionate about suicide that'll help us drive this initiative. We need to be able to look at how do we recruit. What does that position description look like out in the press? Do you understand it when you read it? How about supervision and mentoring? What does that look like? Who should be providing it? Are you wanting to become a supervisor because you've been in the field long enough and you go, I think I would like to support my fellow peers? Why don't we have a pathway for you, as we do have for some of our other allied health professionals, to become supervisors? I'm just throwing it out there. But we will be asking you these questions: skill development and training. What have you received in the past? What worked, what stuck, and where are the gaps? Because it is so important, you working with somebody alongside them, hearing those stories, being your amazing selves. How do we keep you all fluffed up, energized, and ready to sit with the next person that comes? Because this, the strategy has to be building a sustainable suicide peer workforce. It's easy just to throw out some ideas, but we need this to go on. Sadly, because suicide prevention is not going to go away yet. We will be making a big difference, and it's the lived experience component that I know will make a difference in this space. Now, the amazing thing that I think about this strategy, which has never happened before to my knowledge, is that we will be talking to the managers and going, remember when you said it was hard to support that person? Tell me about it. What is it that's hard? I don't know what a peer worker is. Okay, I'm going to come with the peer workers. I'm going to go, what do you want to tell them? What do you want them to know? We're going to create a shared language across both so that when we develop these training packages, we'll have a person that's there to work to co-design, create packages, resources for you. But the managers will receive training that is based on your input, and then vice versa. We will create a training package and resources that have a shared language. I think that's really exciting. So that when you go to your training, they go, oh yeah, I really enjoyed mine. And you know what? I know what a peer worker is now. At the end of it, we will be building a resource. Now, we also acknowledge that every LHD is different and unique, and thank goodness, because every community is unique. It would be foolish of us to say, well, here's the one-stop shop. As soon as I hear someone taking mental health and reducing it to a singular, I run. This is the one pill. This is the one. This isn't going to be the one. This is going to be a really great starting point for you to build on and build in your needs. We have some of our suicide prevention outreach teams that have to be virtual because there's so much area to cover. We have others, so every area is different based on that community's needs, as it should be. That community should, and the peers that work in there should come to us and say, this is what we need. So at the end of it, we will be leaving something that can be built upon and moved forward. So how do we do it? So we'll meet with each LHD and Specialty Health Network, and most importantly, the peer workers. We will be talking to them and asking them, what do you need? And we want open and honest feedback. And I don't think you guys will be shy about giving us an opinion? No? No, good. Then supporting the LHDs and SHNs to develop and implement their support structures. What do we need to beef up? What do they need? Co-designed resources and share existing ones, because just in the few short weeks that we've started some early conversations, we're going, wow, you doing what? Does anyone else know that you're doing that? No, we've just been doing it because we want to be a clearinghouse for resources and knowledge, so as we move forward, we can take your great thing, with your permission and credit, going, guess what? We have a peer group over here that actually has an orientation manual that says what peer work is and what you should, and then, so smirking when I said peer orientation manual. That's not something that happens? Oh, okay, no, okay. Maybe we should put that in that. And then absolutely there'll be some follow-up. Did we get it right? What worked, what didn't? We'll trial and pilot some of the initial trainings, some of the resources. Was this helpful? Was it what you needed? Now, I know that this is specifically for the suicide prevention peer workforce, but we know for a fact that it's going to translate over into all of peer work. The language that I'm saying here around leadership and onboarding and stuff, it's a shared experience in our workforce. But that is just kind of a snapshot. Now, this was research that was done just last year by Van Zanden and Blokas. They're from Wollongong University. And again, this core change process should be considered when designing peer-led, and this is what that safe haven space is these peer-led initiatives with the support of our clinicians, our other support structures, but we know for a fact that we need a lot more work in our peer-led interventions, peer-led organizations, peer-led research, peer-led education, on and on. Suicide prevention services may be especially benefited by providing peer workers and clinicians with more opportunities for collaboration and support. Not only from one another, but also via professional supervision. And again, we want you to define what that should look like. I think it's really important. What is the supervision that you're lacking, or what is the supervision that's working that we can build upon? Integrating service user perspectives when developing and modifying interventions may alleviate tensions. We have one of our amazing safe havens, and I'll name them because they're doing great work in Kogarah. Now they're actually, they've set up a little kind of CAG group, so they don't do anything at that safe haven without consulting with their brand new consumer advisory group. They're just getting ready to move to a new location. They consult with them from the design, they don't make a service change without consulting them. That's the only one I've heard of yet. But these are...
Northern Beaches, we're under the safe space, which is the tier 4.
Yeah.
So no clinical intervention at all. And we've actually put all those things in motion already, the support training and all those things ready to go.
And I'm going to be talking to you. No. And I'm very aware of the work that's being done. So the safe spaces. So we've got safe havens and safe spaces. And each community sometimes need other things. There's the Alt to Sue groups, which is again a very volunteer suicide, and it's just all volunteer. Each community will have its own little needs, and we want those met. And then we need to collaborate. That's why I love this being event, is the fact that we've opened up the big umbrella. We've always talked about the big tent. So as we talk about the big show, so we've had the big tent and we've invited everyone into it. Now I know we could have filled a stadium with workers. I know there's going to be a lot of people who wish they were out, because I know they're texting me going, they sold out. That's when you know you're doing something good. But this is really important, and thank you for, we need to be proud of what we're doing and name it and stand up and say we're doing that too, or we're doing it better, but we would be happy to share, because ultimately we're working the suicide prevention space that keeping those people that we lose too frequently every day at the center of my thoughts. Which brings me to another topic. Now, because suicide prevention peer workers need to be resilient, so if you're going to continue to do this, if you're just going to do peer work in general, and I think we've highlighted a few things today about how challenging just life is. So before we even take on our role as a peer worker, just going, over the past 2.5 years, the mental health teams that I've worked with, so from Sutherland over to St. George, and look, over the past 2.5 years, we've had our mental health team, which peers have been embedded with. We had to debrief the cruise ship from the New Zealand volcano disaster. So that pulled into Circular Quay, and our mental health team had to debrief that cruise ship. So we started off with a volcano, then we went into a drought, then we went into bushfires, then we went into a pandemic. Then then we went into a flood, pandemic continues. Anyone had a challenging year? So when I started thinking about talking about resilience, I went, oh really? I was talking to Omer this morning and just saying, look, I don't know what to say. I'm tired. Anyone else tired? Any teams that you're working with tired? When this first started, I predicted that there would be a tsunami of burnout within New South Wales Health. Early on, I named it because we saw the pandemic coming and we all went out to the ocean and we went, wow, look at that, the ocean's out to the horizon. Amazing. We know what's coming back. That being said, the thing that does keep me really positive is the fact that I know that as a peer workforce, we've been given a unique, we didn't ask for it, but that's what that's what being a peer is all about. We didn't ask for what happened to us, what was given to us, but we somehow overcame, adapted, moved forward in the service of helping others. That's resilience. It's still being able to name it. I'm tired today. But when I got to thinking about, I get to come and really be with some people that I can just be myself. I've left my notes over there even. I was inspired by the talk. I went, let's just talk. I'm tired, really tired. But we keep getting up, and we all got out of bed today, and we're all here. So give yourselves that's the talk about resilience. Is you got out of bed today. Yes, absolutely. Everyone is out of bed. Yay. Now you may be nodding off later. That's okay. So what is this thing resilience? Now I did put a little question in my little app thingy. So I was watching the word cloud build, and I always love seeing hope. Hope and gratitude seems to always be kind of our little mantras in that space. But the ability to adapt to adverse conditions while maintaining a sense of purpose, balance, and positive mental and physical well-being. Now that's just one. That's one person naming it. What's some of the ways that you? So I threw it out there. How are you keeping yourselves resilient during this time? I'm just throwing it out there. Name it.
Purpose and hope.
What's that? Purpose and hope, yes. Keeping hope alive. Someone else, come on.
Dancing.
Yes, what's that?
Dancing.
Oh, dancing, no thank you. You wouldn't want to. My son's a very good dancer, I'm not. But that, I would be happy to do it because just having that sense of just who cares anymore. My son's not here, so I'm not going to embarrass him. Anyone else? Therapy. Keeping my appointments. Finding the right person that it's worth my time.
Maintaining connections. Doing fun stuff outside of work.
Outside stuff.
Maintaining the connections, like real connections.
Thank you for that. Real connections. Being really connected. Oh, I've got 3,000 friends on Facebook. Yes. Throw a party, see how many come. Absolutely. I love frustration, and that's the joy I get. And I don't like to call myself a peer manager because I don't have to manage my team. God knows. They're amazing. And a few of them are here today, and I actually handed off the baton to one that's here in the front. Steve is now our acting peer manager. Being able to really connect is so, so, so important. Doing things outside of work. Oh, please leave work at home. But then that frustration, I love that when I do put that peer manager hat on of going, frustration, because that's energy. But what are you going to do with it? How are you going to channel that? Really important. And there's plenty of things that we can focus on, but if you don't have the proper mentoring opportunities to put that into place, that energy stays in and can be very unhealthy over time and often disheartening. And then we start to see people leaving the profession, and this is a profession now. But we owe it to you, whatever services you're hired in, they owe it to you, they owe it to us to provide if they want to keep us, pathways for leadership, for supervision, for growth. If it says in the brochure that we have this great peer workforce, let's also highlight what we're doing to support them in that. And it is happening, otherwise I wouldn't be here. If I thought I was wasting my time, even I have to give Wellways credit, it wasn't a lived experience position. And I flagged that, I'm a suicide attempt survivor. I've been living with my disorder for 30 years, and they still hired me. And I went, nice. Because the other two organizations that I applied for, they didn't. And they highlighted that it probably wasn't the right time for me. I'm like, no, for them, it wasn't. But we'll work on that. So the power of the resilience of the peer workforce, that's what I'm passionate about. And that's my energy and my frustration, because creating pathways, for our amazing people that want to enter this sector, I get calls all the time. How do I become a peer worker? Why? Because you guys are out there doing amazing work every single day. And when they find out that it's like, you get paid for that? And you can actually acknowledge that yes. How is always, and I have to say it's hard because we put too many barriers in place. And I don't have time to tell you because I'm spending so much time inducting our second year new grad nurses at the hospital without creating you the same opportunity of placements to further your career. So how do we create these pathways from the earliest, when someone has what is peer work, what is it? And where are those opportunities? I am passionate about the peer workforce because I know that you're resilient. However, I know that there's a limit to resiliency. Otherwise, I wouldn't have broke 30 years ago. We have that point in which we can't, that's it. That's one less thing. So I like the metaphor of that's a rubber band, or really badly made pasta. So I'm not sure, we'll call it a rubber band. We'll call it a rubber band. I like the idea of this rubber band and the prior band is the fact that, proper conditions and support, especially when you got that new rubber band smell, it's resilient. But what happens when you leave something out, in the sun or the heat and you get a little burnt? It becomes a little crispy. Maybe its elasticity has it just doesn't have what it used to have. Few cracks showing, and maybe it snaps. So I know that you're resilient. You wouldn't be in the positions if you weren't. You wouldn't have got this far to overcome and still go, and I want to help others. I'm passionate about, and this is why I jumped into this strategy, and part of an amazing team, to help develop something that we can ensure that we keep that rubber band nice and stretchy. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have hard, bumpy days, but hopefully you'll be able to bounce forward in that little stretchy space as you move forward. Now, even the World Health Organization has acknowledged the importance of having lived experience. So this is their most recent mental health plan. We know globally now, there is no doubt, yes, 5 years ago it was, we're taking a risk. And we still are. I mean, because we're not supporting people. So yeah, is there a risk? Sure. For any other workforce, the same, it would be just as applicable that there is risk. We mitigate risk by supporting people, training them, and really giving them what they need in their profession. We need more power. We need to empower those lived experience voices. And the thing that I love about this one is that they go on in this same magazine, this same report, is that the use of peer workers and supports who provide each other with encouragement and a sense of belonging in addition to their expertise. Interesting, is anyone here more than just their lived experience? Yeah? Nice. It's nice to know that because often it's like, well, he's got lived experience, so, and I often use, we've got an amazing perinatal peer worker who works over at Prince of Wales or St. George now, I'm sorry. I'll name her, Ashley. Amazing, passionate perinatal peer worker. That's a specialty in my eyes. This is somebody who has that frustration at a system, a lived experience, as well as going to conferences such as this, upskilling and stuff. So yes, I have a lived experience, but I've also upskilled and I have an expertise. Yes, I'm an expert by experience, but I also have some other areas of expertise. And just because we have a lived experience doesn't mean that we're all suited for everything. I have a lived experience of childbirth. Quit laughing. Quit laughing. Come on. I was a paramedic. I've delivered 2 babies. You didn't see that one coming. 2 babies. I know the mechanics. I cannot say that I have a lived experience of childbirth. Nope. What's that? I was born. So again, another experience. So absolutely, I love that. So another experience. So I have a lived experience of being born. It's just that, again, like my trauma memory, I don't quite think, probably a good thing. Probably a good thing I don't remember it. But we have different lived experiences, and we honor that. So just sometimes our lived experience isn't enough to say, well, you've got a lived experience of this distress. We're just going to pop you into a suicide role, and there you go. Off you go. So as we were, I think as a highlight, I really like that we started the day by highlighting, and I've just reaffirmed, is the fact of what's going on in the world. And yes, if this is a safe space, we can agree that this is a safe space. I know the cameras are rolling, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm an American. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't apologize for them. What's happened the past few weeks and the past few years and few decades. But there's a lot happening in the world. So when we look at the news through that lens, we can see that. As we were talking earlier, is the fact we work in a deficits-focused system. That lens. Now it's getting better. It is getting better. It's a little bit smudgy, but we've got people. Andrew here, just 2 weeks ago, lectured, yes, I'm putting you on the spot, lectured at UNSW to second-year medical students on the power that recovery, Steve, I'm sorry. We have two lecturers, lived experience lecturers for UNSW, for second-year med students to teach them that recovery is possible, strengths-focused, recovery-oriented language, trauma-informed care. We will move on to the when they become psychiatrists in a couple of years. So we will be following this group of students through to help educate them on what recovery is possible. So even though there is a recovery, there isn't much recovery in that space, we are addressing it. Now the great thing is that we all in this room have our peer lens, and we know for a fact that that hope. And and we often hold it for the hopeless, and especially in suicide prevention, that we hold that hope for others. When they share those stories, you go, absolutely, of course you're hopeless. My gosh, but I'll hold on to that. We know that there is possibilities, and often just by sitting in those spaces, and we have that ability. So I want to end on a positive. So often whenever we talk about suicide and stuff, we talk about trauma-informed care, and then we talk about vicarious trauma. Yes, we honor it. We go, absolutely. Those that we sit with, those stories, that energy, we honor that what people have been through. However, there is something known as vicarious resilience, the ability to adapt to adverse conditions while the vicarious resilience happens when the professional peer worker experiences personal growth in their own life through the witnessing of the growth through the people that they're supporting. That's bad language. But we honor the thoughts behind it, is the fact that when I work with clinicians and stuff, and that's like, I just don't know what to do. I was like, well, how I do it? I said, I'm empowered by sitting with those stories, that vicarious resilience. I'm just absolutely blown away with sitting with others. They've shared the story, they've gotten out of bed, and then they say, how do I move on, go back to TAFE? How do I become a better parent? That vicarious resilience is out there, and we sit with it all the time. We also model it, daily. So I guess at this point, I'm going to leave this up. There's multiple ways to contact us. If you'd like more information about the suicide prevention peer workforce strategy, who we are, if you are passionate about suicide, interventions. Sadly, we do work also in postvention, so that is still part of suicide work, is that often, even within Wellways, we have peer workers that work in the postvention space to actually go out to support individuals, workplaces, as well as communities that have been impacted by people who have taken their lives. So I'll save the questions for later. I just want to thank you so much for giving me 40 minutes of your time today. And I would like to kind of finish this with, so I'm going to hand over to Omar, because we know one way of building resilience is through connections. Oh, we also have, there's also forums over here that tells more about our strategy. Thank you. But we know one way of building resilience is through connection. And since we are all here together, I thought maybe I could turn it over to Omar and we could explore how we might do that and build that resiliency. Thank you.